I'd like to welcome each one here this evening for our meeting. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge the land which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Ottawa, and Mississauga peoples. At this time, I'd like to welcome Marissa, a summer student working with the county, and she's with the planning, and she's around with Hannah today. Welcome, Hannah, Marissa, and we just hope you'll learn a little bit from the meeting this evening. Thank you for coming. Confirmation of the agenda that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby approves the agenda for July 15th, 2024 council meeting as presented. May I have a mover? Deputy Reeve, Councillor Whitfield, all in favor? Carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Seeing none. Public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to any item of business on the agenda. 2 minutes per person. Members wishing to speak will need to state their name and the item of business that they wish to speak to. Seeing none. Consent agenda that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby adopts consent item 5.1.1 and further that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives consent items 5.1.2 to 5.3.3 for information purposes. May I have a mover? Councillor Van Hitterson, seconder. Councillor Whitfield. Would anybody like to pull anything from? Okay, we'll go with. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Palmer, please.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. I'd like to pull 5.3.1, and it's regarding Township of Terrace Bay requesting the province to fund the cost of OPP services for municipalities. I'd like staff to send a letter of support.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to pull anything? Seeing none.
Thank you, Your Worship. So if the mover, Councillor Van Hitterson, and the seconder, Councillor Whitfield, are fine with it, the motion would be that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby adopts consent item 5.1.1, and further that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives consent items 5.1.2 to 5.3.3, exclusive of 5.3.1 for information purposes.
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried.
And then your second motion will be that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby directs staff to send a letter of support for agenda item 5.3.1, and your mover is Councillor Palmer.
Seconder, Councillor Van Hitterson. All in favor? Carried. Public meetings and hearings and delegations. At this time, we have Ian Boddy from Southwestern Ontario Isotopes Coalition. He's going to come forward and have a presentation for us.
Button for, I think for some of us that are old enough will remember Abby Hoffman and the Chicago 7. I think he said, never trust anyone over the age of 30 with electronics, I think was the quote. Maybe not quite, but so good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Ian Boddy. I'm the mayor of the city of Owen Sound and one of the co-chairs of the Southwestern Ontario Isotope Coalition. I'm a co-chair with James Skoniak, who is the executive vice president of Bruce Power, and also the chair of the Canadian Nuclear Isotope Council. Also Jessica Linthorne, the president CEO of the Nuclear Innovation Institute. And recently we've added a fourth co-chair being Theron Solomon from Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. Let me start first with got me there? There we go. So what the heck is an isotope? Some of us will remember the periodical tables from high school, or some of you might. I don't really remember that. Isotopes are something that can be transformed by a cyclotron or by a nuclear exposure or radiation. Cobalt 60 has been produced for over 40 years at Bruce Power. It's used to sterilize about 40% of what needs to be sterilized in the world. And you think about through COVID, all those things that had to be sterilized, from medical equipment, still medical equipment, to PPE, et cetera, was all done with Cobalt 60 from here at Bruce Power. There's also a cobalt produced at Bruce Power that's used for treating brain tumors, et cetera, that's very specific. More recently, Bruce Power has gotten into lutetium-177. So there's a system that was put together by Kinectrics and Framatome, Kinectrics being up the road at Teeswater and Framatome being over at Kincardine. They've come together at a company called Isogen. So there's a tube system that goes into one of the reactors, and they're sending in a little metal tube with glass inserts that would be about this size of a pen that they shoot in. It's in for a number of days. It works best in the Canadian CANDU reactor, which we have here. It comes back out. From there, they take these little pen things and they ship them around the world to Germany to be processed. Have to be processed within 5 days and sent out to the world to treat cancer. Lutetium, they're finding, is Skoniak describes it as being a heat-seeking missile. It's very precision, goes into the body and finds its way to that hot spot, being where the tumor is, and from within that tumor is able to react and treat that tumor. With 1 or 2 doses, they're now calling it theranostics, being a therapy and a diagnostics at the same time. With a PET scan, they can go in and watch it and watch the tumor shrink with 1 or 2 doses. So, you know, now we get cancer, whether it be liver for us men, prostate. Lutetium goes in directly to that and treats it. So cutting down in surgery and the cost of surgery, cutting down the chemotherapy and the cost of chemotherapy, and the what it does to the human body. Potentially cutting down in radiation, the way we're treating cancer now. Much more effective, much faster. So with Bruce Power, with CANDU reactors, we are able to add more and more isotopes, radiate them, and be able to use them around the world. I recently referred to it as being an exploding industry, just the way the growth is coming. And I was told very quickly in the nuclear world that we don't like to use exploding when we're talking about the or expansion or booming. There's certain words I'm not supposed to use around isotopes. So back in about March of 2023, the Canadian Nuclear Isotope Council put out a program or a booklet called Isotopes for Hope, and talked about the ability of Canada to produce a lot of these, and especially with here in Ontario. We came back and looked at it and said, what can we do to take advantage of this opportunity that's going on, the industry that's being developed, the technology that's being developed, and came up with the idea of a coalition based, modeled loosely on the North Carolina Research Triangle Park, which takes in the cities of Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, and North Carolina State University, Duke University, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And 18, I think, counties in around that. How can we do something similar? How can we work together, break down the barriers between municipalities, and be able to push this region as a world leader and take advantage of the opportunities that are here? It doesn't mean that we're going to get jobs perhaps in the city of Owen Sound, but we might get treatments at our hospital there, being a regional cancer treatment. For every job that we know that we're going to get in Kincardine and Goderich in Port Elgin in the area, they're going to go shopping in the area. They're going to go out, and that economic developer effect, economic development effect will bleed out. You know, we know for every new dollar that comes into the area at economic multiplier at 2.83% or 3 times, turnover, that it's great for our economic area. So with a coalition, we can start to have more clout with the Ontario government, with the federal government, with municipalities, with hospitals, with things like Gateway over in Goderich. They're doing great rural medical research, et cetera, that we can have a much bigger effect working together and start to do more things. It makes no sense right now to have these treatments being sent to Germany to be processed, to send out to the world when we're here. You know, why can't we have a processor here somewhere in Grey Bruce, Huron, that will develop the treatment of or the processing of the treatment, and then ship it out to the rest of the world so we can continue to build the economics of it. It will be developed. Bruce Power will continue to expand, and we want to build that coalition so that we take advantage of that. It is interesting, once we started this coalition, Eastern Ontario started theirs, going, we want to do exactly what you're doing, and copied some of the wording and some of the ideas that we're doing to take in Darlington and Chalk River and some of the processing that they've got over there. So we're inviting you to join us and come together. I know the county of Huron, Bruce, Grey, a lot of the municipalities, and I forgot the exact number that we've got signed up so far, have joined us, and we'd really be pleased if you would join us and join the coalition as well. The one word that I forgot there that I see I've written down in front of me is free. The idea isn't coming to the municipalities with our hand out for money. We want to apply for and have applied for big industrial grants through the province and through the federal government to try and develop this. This is more networking and economic development, pulling together that we're building the coalition, not looking for each of us to pay for it. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for your report here. Yeah, it's exciting news, actually. Does Bruce Power have the wherewithal to do this processing of the isotopes?
At this point, no, they don't have the power to process, just to produce. So they are radiating the isotope through the plant. And again, the CANDU reactor is best for that. The American system of enriched uranium isn't going to work the same way. So they can produce, can't process. I just realized I didn't hit any of my next slides. Not working.
So another question for one of the members? No, it's exciting when we have a local hospital here and work that goes on up there. So it really is very exciting, and we're looking forward to our EDO coming in and talking to us a bit later on, and we're looking very positive about this. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you for hosting me and letting me come and speak to you guys.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go to 6.2, Casey of Zelinki Priamo Limited of Southside Construction.
Good evening. My name is Casey Golchicki. I'm with Zelinka Priamo Limited, representing Southside Construction Management on the draft plan of subdivision application 40T24001. I'm here tonight just to express support for the staff recommendation that's before you tonight, recommending approval of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment and then endorsement of the draft plan of subdivision up to the county level. The only thing that Southside and ourselves wanted to express tonight was a request to have the parkland dedication condition removed from the list of conditions. We feel that through the negotiation with the township, a fair price was paid for the subject lands, and Southside is a little concerned that the omission of being aware of the parkland dedication through the negotiation was a bit of an omission through that process. In addition, when we look at the overall land area that the development lands were severed from, there is a municipal designated park immediately to the west that is in excess of the required amount under the Planning Act. So through the consent process, it could have been deemed that the parkland dedication for both the retained and severed parcels prior to the sale being finalized could have been satisfied. So we are just here tonight to express or to request that council consider striking that condition from the list prior to endorsing the list of conditions up to the county level. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. At this time, I'll ask our clerk to give an update, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So maybe I just, in regard to that condition, if it's of benefit, I can provide some context, but I do want to begin by just taking the opportunity to say that we're really looking forward to this development and working with the developer to create some housing in the community. In regard to the parkland condition, so this condition was recommended by the development team as the township's fees and charges bylaw prescribes that the cash in lieu will be collected, and it gets collected at the time of lot creation. So this is a standard condition that's attached to files for lot creation township-wide. For example, we collect cash in lieu for infill lot severances or surplus farm severances. The funds collected are then held in the reserve and are used for recreational purposes for the public to enjoy. When we go through this process, the current amount of land holdings that the township has or the amount in reserve are not factors we consider when deciding whether to collect cash in lieu. And whether parkland is available on neighboring properties has no bearing on whether the cash in lieu requirements that are being generated from a development are whether the cash in lieu is collected, regardless of whether those neighboring lands are publicly or privately owned. And then I guess just in regard to the retained lands, so these lands, as Casey's indicated, were not part of the purchase and sale agreement. They weren't a part of the discussions nor part of the agreement itself. And I guess from the outset, the EOI or the expression of interest document that the township released to solicit offers on the property it identified which lands were available, and this had always excluded those lands to the west as the township needed to keep those lands for the buffer between the sewage treatment plant and the residential development. And as council is aware, the offer was accepted based on those severed lands only. So I guess that would be comments from the development team in regard to why that condition is recommended by staff. And I guess at your next agenda item after this, Planner Holman does have the report on the draft plan of subdivision application as well as the zoning amendment application. So council can provide direction in regard to that condition at that time.
Okay, at this time, I'll take any questions from any members at all. Go ahead, Councillor Wright, please.
Yeah, I guess it may be a difficult question to answer, but I guess this fee seemed to come as a bit of a surprise to the developer. So is this a fairly standard fee, cash in lieu for parkland and open spaces, or not?
In regard to the monetary value or in regard to the fee itself?
Well, that the fee exists, yeah.
Yeah, so the fee is a standard practice among municipalities in regard to developments. And I guess like I indicated, so the township, anytime we're creating lots, and I guess across the county, this fee is charged for cash in lieu.
Any other questions from anyone? Just curious, how do our fees compare to other municipalities? around?
I guess, through your worship, I guess to answer your question, Planner Holman may have some more context, but I believe our fees in regard to the county are in line with the rest of Huron County, and I do know there's some above and there's likely some below, so I imagine we're somewhere in the middle.
Thank you. So any other, go ahead, Deputy Reed, please.
Thank you. Through your read. If council was to change their position on the lieu of parklands fee, would that be a precedent that would then trigger a refund for all of everyone else that had to pay that fee in the last, well, since the bylaw came in? Excuse me.
So through your worship, to answer Deputy Reeve Falconer's question, I can't necessarily advise of whether you'd have to back pay. I'm going to assume, I'm going to say no, given that those are reflected in existing agreements for example, for clearance of severance conditions, that kind of thing. But for future, there's always that potential, right? You're likely to continue to receive requests, and in fairness to those people, and right, why wouldn't they, right?
No other questions from any member? Seeing none, I just want to thank Casey for his delegation there that he brought forward to us. And at this time, I'll ask Hannah to come forward, please, at this time, our planner. So 7.1.1 PL 2024-13 zoning bylaw amendment application Z 02-24 and plan of subdivision application 40 T 24001 follow-up report. Go ahead, Hannah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for having me this evening, Council. Tyler, if you could just go to the next slide, please. Thanks. Okay, great. So the purpose of this presentation and then the accompanying report that was included in your agenda package is to consider the zoning bylaw amendment and plan of subdivision that was previously considered at the June 17th regular meeting of council, where we held the public meeting for the zoning bylaw amendment. And in particular, staff are seeking a recommendation from North Huron Council with respect to making a decision on the zoning bylaw amendment application, as this application is North Huron Local Council is the decision maker. And for the draft plan of subdivision application, the approval authority for this is Huron County Council. So we would be seeking direction from council on what recommendation they would like to include and forwarding that to Huron County Council. And as mentioned in the previous item, we will also be seeking direction on the recommended conditions that were included in my report. So the next slides might be a refresher from the last meeting, but the subject lands are located in Hutton Heights. They're designated residential, zoned future development, and are approximately 16 acres in size. The following just shows some site visit photos of the subject property. So there is a hedgerow feature on the property. The rest of the lands are currently cropped. Just moving ahead. So the proposed development includes options for low density, medium density, and high density residential. The applicant did submit various different application supporting materials, including the following studies: a planning justification report, archaeology assessment, environmental impact study, functional servicing report, and traffic impact study. So all of these documents, as well as the application, were considered in staff's detailed review. In terms of details on the proposal, there's 50 lots that are proposed to be for low density residential, including single detached dwellings. About 23 lots that are to be used for row house dwellings or medium density, and then one high density residential block, which is identified as block 75. So this block in particular is proposed to be zoned to high density, but as we move through the development process, it is anticipated that more detailed review will occur through the site plan control application process. But currently right now in the functional servicing report, it's referenced that there would be 90 units proposed. But noting that this will be subject to change as potential details we work through in site plan control. There's 2 blocks that are identified for natural environment buffer areas and 1 open space walkway, and 3 new internal streets will be created. In terms of the proposed zoning bylaw amendments, so the council report does go into this into great detail, but essentially the rezoning's hoping to correspond with the low, medium, and high density residential uses with special provisions for single detached dwellings, special provisions for the row house dwellings, as well as special provisions for the multiple unit dwellings, which is what we call an apartment building in the township's zoning bylaw. So my report does go into this in greater detail, and while noting that there will be special provisions for these specific uses, so either single detached, row houses, or an apartment building, given that our zoning bylaw does permit a minimum of 3 units per lot, it is reasonable that in the future, if the lot fabric does allow it, there may be some future demand for additional residential units, either basement units or detached, although this has not specifically been specified in the applicant's proposal, just something to be aware of. In terms of public comments, so it was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act, and neighbors did receive a notice in the mail. We did hold the public meeting during the June 17th meeting of council. At that meeting, council received verbal comments from members of the public, and their concerns are paraphrased as followed. There were concerns with the capacity of infrastructure, including the road network. They had questions about any upgrades to the existing roads, so Lloyd Street of note, and they did have questions on the location of the high density. So to summarize, these were all considered in the review by staff. With respect to the infrastructure capacity and the roads, the road authorities have indicated they don't have any concerns, and there's not any anticipated concerns with infrastructure, and in particular with respect to water and sewage services, noting that, of course, as a condition of the plan of subdivision application, more detailed design will occur. In terms of agency comments, there were no concerns received from Maitland Valley, Conservation Authority, Hydro One, Enbridge, Bell Canada, and County Public Works. If they did provide direction to include conditions, these were included in the recommended staff conditions. The Chippewas of the Thames First Nation also did have minimal concern. In terms of township staff comments, they were integral in the review of this throughout the process. So their comments have also been reflected in the conditions and the recommendation. And similarly, the township's consulting engineer and drainage superintendent also reviewed this, and their comments are reflected in the conditions. In terms of a planning review, my report does go into this in greater detail. The plan of subdivision was considered against the criteria set forth in the Planning Act, and it does meet that criteria. The proposal was also evaluated for relevant policy in the provincial policy statement, the county and North Huron official plans. To summarize the planning review, so Hutton Heights is directed to be a primary settlement area as per the investment in full municipal water and sewage services. So it is an area where we are directing growth, including residential growth. There are appropriate servicing and infrastructure available to support the development, and the proposal has a mix of unit types, which is encouraged by the county and local official plans, and it well exceeds the 15 units per hectare density target. So it's an efficient use of land, and it supports the residential growth goals set forth in the county and North Huron official plans. The lands do abut an existing woodland feature with a proposed setback buffer. My report does go into greater detail. There was an environmental impact study that was submitted with the applicants, and that was peer reviewed on behalf of the county. There was some debate with respect to the 10-meter buffer and whether this was a sufficient width. However, staff have concluded that given the mitigation measures that are reflected in the conditions and the proposed enhancements to the woodland feature, that this is considered an appropriate width. So in terms of the zoning bylaw, I'll just go back there. So my report does go into greater detail, but if I were to summarize the evaluation of the zoning bylaw, it's considered that the building height for the high density block is considered appropriate. And again, the details of this will be reviewed in detail during site plan control to make sure that there's sufficient space for parking, that servicing is able to be met in greater detail. But for the most part, we generally have no concerns with respect to the zoning, which is proposed to go to R3 with a 4-story height. It is worth noting for council that As a result of the new direction from the Ontario Land Tribunal, previously North Huron provided direction in late 2023 to allow R3 zones to have a height of 6 meters. So there has been some accounting for that in the bylaw, but just noting that the applicants did reflect 4 stories, but this does provide them some flexibility if plans change. And again, that detailed review will occur during site plan control. There were also proposed increases to lot coverage. Staff are satisfied that this is appropriate, particularly given the proposed stormwater management methods. So since it's a new greenfield development, there's certainly a lot more options with increasing lot coverage because generally stormwater management is more well-designed than more infill development. There are proposed reductions to rear yards, frontages, and lot sizes, which staff consider minor and help to contribute to a more efficient form of development without compromising the functionality of the lots for residential uses. The staff are recommending one proposed revision to the zoning bylaw amendment as it was submitted. And this is respect to the proposed exterior side yard on the R1 corner lots. So this will impact lots that are proposed for single detached dwellings. So there's 4 lots in the plan of subdivision that would be impacted by this. So corner lot means that they abut a street on 2 sides. So there was some concern that the reduced exterior side yard, if it also did include attached garages for the single detached dwellings, that there would be pressure in the future to have entrances that were too close to the intersection for staff to feel comfortable. And there was also concern that this may lead to, if people have larger vehicles or trailers parking closer to that intersection, there was some concern with maintaining the site triangles. Staff are not concerned with the main portion of the building, so the dwelling being 3 meters, particularly because they're proposing to maintain the 6-meter frontage. But it was just the attached garages that were a concern. So there's a proposed revision that the attached garage portion as measured from the overhead garage door remain at the 6-meter setback. And we were hoping this will reduce pressure that we will see for entrances that are too close to an intersection for those concerns as noted. And it also doesn't put township staff in an uncomfortable position where they might feel some pressure to grant entrance permits as close to an intersection as they may not normally. So that's what that proposed revision is there. So we would also be seeking council direction on whether they would consider that revision acceptable, but that is what forms my recommendation. So in conclusion, the draft plan and zoning bylaw amendment with the noted revision is consistent with the provincial policy statement, conforms to the county and North Huron official plans. It is recommended that the draft plan be subject to the recommended conditions attached to the report. So this does include the aforementioned parkland dedication condition. So that's condition number 33. It's staff's recommendation that all of those conditions as included in my staff report be included in the approval, but that is something we are seeking council direction on. So in terms of the recommendation, it's recommended that North Huron Council recommend to the County of Huron that the plan of subdivision be granted draft plan approval subject to all of the attached conditions in the staff report, and that the zoning bylaw amendment Z02-2024 be approved subject to the staff recommended revision to increase the exterior side yard for attached garages in the R1 zone. Because council is making a decision or if they are going to be making a decision on the zoning bylaw amendment, they will also need to indicate by resolution the effect of public and agency comments. So I can provide more details once we get to that motion. And then the final motion is with respect to if council wishes to include the recommended revision to the zoning bylaw. Because the zoning bylaw amendment has already been circulated to members of the public, an additional motion is required for council to state that they consider the revision to the zoning bylaw minor. And in that case, we will not be required to issue a notice to all the neighbors and all the prescribed agencies. Because it is the opinion of staff that this change is minor and doesn't warrant a full additional notice. It's worth noting if people did provide comments and participate in the process, they will still receive a notice regardless, but that's just with respect to that revision. So it is recommended that council also make a motion to that effect. And then the following is just the agency and public comments options, which when we get to that point, I can provide a recommended direction. So I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you, Hannah, for the in-depth report there. Are there any questions from any of the members this evening? Very well put together, and again, we can phone you up and you answered some of our questions. Very much appreciate to have that two-way street there with you, and it sure helps out doing that. Okay.
So there's four motions on draft recommended motions on the council agenda. As Planner Holman went through, the first one is in relation to the draft plan of subdivision application. The second one is the zoning bylaw amendment. The third one is the effect of public and agency comments in regard to the zoning bylaw amendment. And the fourth one is the motion required due to those changes being those minor changes being made after the circulation of the public meeting notice. So then I guess we'll start with the first motion. So if you want to go ahead, Reeve Heffer.
That the council of the township of North Huron hereby recommends to the county of Huron that the plan of subdivision application 40T24001 be granted draft plan approval, subject to the recommended conditions set out in the Huron County Planning and Development Report presented to Hannah Holman, planner, at the July 15th, 2024 council meeting. May I have a mover? Councillor McBurney, seconder. Councillor Van Hitterson. All in favor? Carried. Number two, that the council of the township of North Huron hereby approves the zoning bylaw amendment of file number Z02-2024 as it applies to part of the lot 42, concession 14, East Wanash Ward, Township of North Huron, subject to the recommended revision to increase the exterior side yard setback for attached garages on the corner lots. May I have a mover? Councillor Wright, seconder. Councillor Whitfield, all in favor? Carried. Okay, go ahead, Hannah, please.
Okay, thank you. So it is recommended that council select option sort of 5A with effect to public comments, that public comments were received on the issues of traffic, road network, infrastructure, and location of high-density residential. These comments were thoroughly considered, but did not influence the decision of council to approve the application. And that option 4B be selected with respect to agency comments, that agency comments were received in support of the application with a recommended revision to maintain an increased exterior side yard setback for attached garages on corner lots. These comments were considered and influenced the decision of council to approve the application with this revision.
May I have a mover? Deputy Reeve, seconder. Councillor Palmer, all in favor? Carried. Number 4, whereas the council of the township of North Huron has held a public meeting pursuant to section 3412 of the Planning Act with respect to the proposed zoning bylaw, and whereas certain changes have been made to the proposed bylaw after holding the public meeting, now therefore the council of the township of North Huron hereby resolves pursuant to section 3417 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 CP 13, the changes were of such a nature that no further notice is to be given in respect of the proposed bylaw prior to its passing. Mover, please. Deputy Reeve, seconder. Councillor McBurney, all in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you very much, Planner Holman. Appreciate the report you gave us, and look forward to some more coming. Okay, this time.
Okay, 7.1, Clerk's Department, 7.1.2, the public input and public comments, agents report from the clerk. I'll let the clerk speak to the findings of the report first, and then or do I need to
Thank you, Deputy Falconer. Yeah, so the report's there for council. So if there's any questions on the report, I'm available. Otherwise, I will leave it to the floor. But council will need to provide staff direction on an option. There was a couple options noted in the report for a starting point, but we'll seek the direction from council.
The first, I'll need a mover and a seconder to receive the report, and then I can open it up for.
No, you're good to just open up.
Okay, I'll open up for comments now by council. Go ahead, Reeve.
Thank you, Chair. I brought this up just thinking that is there a chance that we can maybe improve our meetings there by having a delegation? I just feel as it's presented, then you have a chance to ask questions. I just feel this would be a better allotted time for us, and then we have more correspondence between the person making the delegation and the council, and we can do our research and things along that line. And I just feel instead of just listening to the person for 2 minutes and we can't say anything, that's why I'd like to move option number 2.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilor Wright.
Yeah, I guess through you, Chair. My question is on timing though, right? The agenda comes out on Friday. The business is on the following Monday. People do not have time to go through the delegation process in order to actually speak to an item on the agenda within that time period, right? So I think that's why it's there, right? It's the only option people have in order to talk to something on the agenda in time, right? My other thought is, and maybe it was just me expecting this, that, I thought if we would remove something, we would actually replace it with something else, and it doesn't seem like we're doing that. We're just taking away an opportunity for public input without actually adding any other opportunities. So anyways, that's my comments on it, Chair.
I have a comment on it. The process that we have for that 2 minutes is sometimes abused in this process. We have no way of checks and balances of making sure that the comments are going to be on something that's even on the agenda, and failing to have the ability to answer anyone's questions as they come up for the comments. And that is only afforded to us through a delegation. If there comes a delegation, then it's an open conversation between council and the presenter. Makes for, I believe, a much more a connected way to get to the points that are matter. I do agree with the agenda being short, or the notice of the agenda being short, and having that short time frame of ability to speak to something on the agenda. But as coming forward as a delegation, they can come forward with their own item that they want to speak to that will get it added to the agenda. And that way they'll be able to open the conversation. It's just my input. Go ahead, Councilor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, you just alluded to it, but I was wondering if the procedure would change at all to become a delegation. Like, can they just, if they want to talk about balls and strikes, could they form one? Or does it have to be related to what's going to be on our agenda?
Okay, I'll direct it to the council or to the clerk.
Through you, Chair Falconer, to answer Councillor Palmer's question. So the delegation process, as it exists right now, gives any member of the public, any member from a firm or anything, the ability to submit a delegation request to speak to council for the purpose of providing information or recommending action on anything within council's jurisdiction. So as long as it's within council's jurisdiction, it's not something that's within the spheres of jurisdiction of the federal government or the provincial government, they can submit a delegation request for.
Okay, seeing no more questions from the council, we have before us the ability to put forward a motion to, option one, to continue to include the public comment interest in a standard agenda item on a regular council meeting, or option two, remove the public comment section, direct staff to prepare an amendment to the procedural bylaw, and remove the public comment section as a standing agenda item on a regular council meeting. Members of the public are desirous of providing comment would be directed to one of the township's other public input mechanisms, such as appeals, and the appeal or appearing as a delegation and submitting correspondence to council by email or phoning council members in advance of the meeting. Would anyone like to put forward a motion?
I'll go with motion.
Go ahead. Grabe? All right. Do I have a seconder? Yeah, I have Councillor McBurney. Okay, would you read it back to?
So the motion on the floor would be that the council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report prepared by the Director of Legislative Services / clerk dated July 15, 2024 regarding the public input / public comment agenda item, comparative analysis report for information purposes. And further, that council directs staff to proceed with option number 2 as identified in staff report CL 2024-11.
Motion. We have the motion before us, a mover and a seconder. All in favor? Carries.
Nothing in finance, recreation, or public works department, fire department. Now, the office of the CAO, the CS 7.6.1, CS 2024-09, North Huron Deaccessioning Project, report number 13. Are there any questions for our CAO with that? Seeing none, very straightforward again. See them going through. I know they're getting a lot of the things documented in there, and just looking for that to be able to get cleaned up and finished off. So may I have a mover? Deputy Reeve, a seconder, Councillor Van Itterson, all in favor? Carried. 7.6.2 CAO 2024-17 Regional Collaborative Partner Southwestern Ontario Isotopes Coalition. At this time, I'm asking Ritu, our EDO, to come forward at this time. Just now, is there any questions that you'd like to give to Ritu at all? Seeing none, I guess we were explained it well enough from the gentleman beforehand and whatnot. It's great. And at this time, go ahead. Motion's over here. That the council, the Township of North Huron hereby receives a report of Economic Development Officer dated July 15th, 2024 regarding the Regional Collaborative Partner Southwestern Ontario Isotopes Coalition, and further that the council hereby directs Township of North Huron to join the Southwestern Isotopes Coalition as a regional partner. May I have a mover? Deputy Reeve, Councillor McBurney. Just before we go ahead, did any questions come to you during this time at all? I know our EDO, Ritu's going to be involved there. It sounds like it's about 4 meetings a year, whatnot. And again, I know she'll be bringing us back information about that. And I know they're really looking forward to this, especially with our hospital in town here too. So at this time, all in favor? Carried. Correspondence requiring action or direction, seeing none. Council reports, Reeve activity report is pretty quiet this week. Things here that could say, but we don't want to say. And at this time, we have 9.2 council member board and committee reports, verbal or written updates from members who sit on boards and committees. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say? None? Oh, you're all like me, a quiet week. Comments by members. Go ahead, Deputy Reeve, please.
Thank you. Through you, Reeve. this past Friday, I had the a great opportunity to be invited to the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Blythe Festival Theater. It gathered all the past and present board members that were still with us because it's been 50 years. But the legacy that they spoke to was very, very uplifting and I'm very grateful to them for their guidance through the years and their future look on to the next 50 years of the festival. I have had the great opportunity provided to them by a legacy donation by the Stevens family. And also Lisa Thompson was there for the Ministry of Rural Affairs. That's the new portfolio that she has put on, and she presented a check for $120,000 towards the 50th anniversary fundraising that they're doing. I'm going to say again, it's a big part of our municipality, a big part of Huron County as a whole. And I just commend them on their 50 years of guidance and 50 years of looking forward. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other member? Seeing none. Bylaws 10. Any notice of motion? Seeing none. Bylaws 10.1, bylaw number 55, 2024. Adoption of Human Resources Policy Manual. May I have a mover? Councillor Van Hitterson. Councillor Whitfield. All in favor? Carried. 10.2. It's a bylaw number 56-2024, appointment of a Director of Public Works and Facilities, and we're happy to have Dax McAllister. He's going to be joining us. He's coming from Blue Mountains. We saw what our CAO put in about him and whatnot, so we look forward to him coming near the end of the month. May I have a mover? Deputy Reeve, Councillor Faulkner, and Councillor Palmer. All in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 57, 2024, zoning bylaw amendments, Southside Construction Management List Limited, first and second reading only. May I have a mover? Deputy Reeve, seconder, Councillor Van Hitterson. All in favor? Carried. Next meetings and announcements. A special council meeting will be held on Thursday, July 25th, 2024 at 9 a.m. in the North Huron Council Chambers here at 271 Francis Street. The next regular council meeting will be held on Monday, August 12th, 2024 at 6 p.m. in the North Huron Council Chambers, 271 Francis Street. The next Wingham BIA board meeting will be held on Thursday, August 15th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. in the Hot Stove Lounge at North Huron West Cask Community Complex. And the next Blythe BIA board meeting will be held on Thursday, August 29th, 2024 at 8 a.m. in the Blythe and District Community Center. Are there any other announcements? Seeing none. Going to 12.1, have to vacate the chair.
.1, the Reeve Heifer will speak on his motion that he presented last council meeting. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I voted in favor of not paying the invoice. But after getting new information, we can deal with this, I think, in a very positive way. They're going to pay us the 74 grand plus, and it's going to go into the rec reserves. And out of that money, we're going to pay the invoice for the work that was done. And with the Part B, the monies that are paid, it comes off the pledge of the Knights. Okay. That's what I have to say there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments by? No. Okay. So before us, we have the notice to rescind. Do we need any further direction from clerk?
Yeah, so under section 24 of the township's procedure bylaw, it outlines the process for reconsideration, including reconsideration within 1 year of the original decision versus reconsideration after 1 year. So maybe for the benefit of the public, just so everyone is clear on what that process is, I'll outline it quickly. But a recorded vote is required for all motions to reconsider. No decided matter can be reconsidered more than once during a term of council. For matters considered within the same term, only a member who voted in the majority may present the notice of motion to reconsider. When council is considering a matter within 1 year, the motion to reconsider shall require at least 2/3 majority vote. So for this council of 7 members, 5 out of 7 members are required to vote in favor for the reconsideration to carry. As I noted, no debate on the motion to reconsider is permitted. And then if the motion to reconsider is decided in the affirmative, the next motion after that will be the actual reconsideration of the agenda item. So if 5 out of 7 votes are received during the recorded vote, then our next item of business under this would be how council actually wants to reconsider, or for lack of a better way to put it, you'll actually do your reconsidering and provide direction to staff. So for you is the motion to reconsider that is moved by Reeve Heffer. So if there's a seconder for that motion, then I'll call a recorded vote.
Looking for a seconder for that, Councillor Wright. That'll be a recorded vote as well. Okay, we'll go ahead.
So I'll now call the recorded vote. So Councillor Wright,
Yes.
Councillor Whitfield,
No.
Councillor Van Hittersum.
No.
Councillor Palmer. Councillor McBurney. Reeve Heffer. And Deputy Reeve Falconer.
Yes.
So that motion carries with the noes being Councillor Whitfield and Councillor Van Hittersum. So then your next item of business, it will be the actual reconsideration of that item. So again, now you can open up for discussion.
All right, I'll, any comments by the, go ahead, Councillor Hitterson.
Thank you very much. I voted the way I did because I was wondering, why can't the Knights just pay the bill? Why do we have to go through a process from putting it here, putting it there, and then why is it they want to put it in the recreation reserves, and then it's just about paying a bill? So why can't they pay the bill directly? That is my question.
Thank you for that. Is there anyone on staff that could answer that portion of the question for Councillor, or?
The only thing I think maybe I'd clarify is I don't think it would be the recreation reserve. It would be the Wingham Columbus Center Reserve would be the appropriate one. And Reeve Heffer, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is okay. Yeah, so it wouldn't be the recreation reserve. I don't know if that provides the clarity council's looking for, but.
So I gather then, to answer your question, is that there is no reason for it to be done that way? So there is. That's what I'm asking for. Okay, no comment. Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's okay, if you relate back to motion 149-23, council decided that if the Columbus Center members spent money within and improved the Columbus Center building or hall, they asked if North Huron would reduce it from the pledge amount. And the pledge amount is about 140,000 at this point. And we voted yes. So knowing that, that's why they suggested, well, if we cut you a check for the invoice amount, and you put it into reserve, into the Columbus Center reserve, and then you paid the invoice, would council look at the idea of reducing the pledge of that amount. And I feel, yes, that'd be a good idea. They're improving the building, their hall. And anytime they do something like that, it's helping the whole rec center and North Huron benefits. So that certainly gets my vote there.
Go ahead, Councilman
Okay,
Anderson.
thank you very much, Deputy Reeve. I still didn't get my question answered because they say they have the money available, then they want to put it in reserve, and then it has to be taken out of the reserve to pay the bill. So why aren't they just right away paying the bill? Because they have the money there, it doesn't have to do with the reserve.
Go ahead, Councilor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. But I did answer the question. Yes, they'll pay the amount. Yeah, it's an in and an out, basically. Okay, that's fair. That's a fair assumption at that point. But then they're asking, because council agreed that monies they spend within the hall, like on the building itself, that would be taken off the pledge. So that's the whole idea. They'll pay the amount. We'll pay North Huron will pay the invoice, and then we would take it off the pledge that they owe. And that makes sense to me. It's solid. Why not request that? Because council said that we would. It's just, why not? They'd be silly not to.
Go ahead, Councilor Whitfield.
I'm just looking at this. If they give us the money, and then whose money is the reserve for Knights of Columbus? Is that not money that they have pledged to put in there that they actually owe? And we would be paying the bill and we would not be receiving any money out of this? And we're writing it off as part of their pledge with, I don't think they've finished paying all the pledge money that Wingham has bailed them out for at the present time yet.
Go ahead, Councilor Palmer. Yeah, Councilor Palmer is the representative from on that.
Yeah,
committee.
thank you, Reeve, or Mr. Chairman. But if they spent $1 in the hall to fix something, they could theoretically ask, can that come off the pledge? And we would think and say, yes, it would, because it's improving the hall. So this is what they're doing. It's an in and out. They'll pay the $174,165 or whatever. Then we would cut a check to the individual that is owed. And then they ask, well, we put the money in and then you took the money out to pay. So essentially we paid it, but can you apply it to the pledge? That's the crux of all of this. Can you apply it to the pledge? And, you know, if you saying yes, only it makes sense because we already have a motion saying that we would in the future. Anytime they could come to us tomorrow and they're going to fix something big within the hall, and it's going to cost this much money. If we do it, will it come off the pledge? Then we'd have to look at it, assess it. So that's what they're doing here. They've spent the money on some baffling and lighting, and can we just take it off the pledge?
Go ahead, Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you. Yeah, they're taking 75,000 off a pledge, which they haven't paid yet. And we're utilizing money from the fund that is already Wingham money or North Huron money. So they're benefiting on both sides here. They're knocking 75,000 off the money that they still owe for pledging.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Thank you,
Counselor.
Mr. Chairman. The reserve money would have come from their budget, from the budget that we have for what they are involved in. But it's their money going in, basically the same amount going out, so it's not affecting our budget at all. And yes, council said previously, if you spend money on the hall, we can take it off the pledge, you know, if it qualifies. Well, that's what they're asking. Can they take it off the pledge? They owed originally what, 500,000. They brought in a lot more than that originally in grants and what have you. So they brought a lot of money to to help with the cost of the arena originally 20-something years ago. So, and we still, they agreed to, yeah, we'll keep paying, we'll pay this 500,000. But keep in mind, they already brought in more money than that in grants from the province. So good, great. That helped everybody. So yes, we've been through the years, been ticketing through and slowly paying off the pledge. Okay, it's down to this. Council agreed. Council agreed. Council should have said no way back then. If you want to do what you're saying, then council should have said no back then, but it didn't. It said, yes, we can take it off, subtract it from the pledge. That means they owe $65,000. And life goes on from there. But it's a nice, clean way of dealing with the issue. It helps clear the air about things, and it will help in future partnerships that we have when going for grants. So it just makes everything cleaner. Okay, there's no good guys, bad guys. We're just all in it to make this work over at the arena, the complex.
Thank you. Okay, well, I'll allow one more.
Yeah, one more. Yeah, if they paid a $75,000 bill, which would be perfect, and that could easily come off their pledge. There'd be no problem at all. But they're putting it in, and then we're taking it out of the funds that we have set aside for future developments and stuff out there too. And just the way the money goes, like it looks like it's a very simple thing for them to actually to get 75,000 off their bill and not pay anything.
Okay, thank you for the comments. I think we've had a thorough discussion on this. I'm looking for a motion from council as to whether we go forward and with this proposal. All right, I have a Councillor Palmer has voted for this proposal. A seconder?
There is no motion.
Oh, there's no motion yet? No. All right. All right.
Okay, that North Huron, the municipality of North Huron received the amount of $74,145.91 from the Wingham Columbus Center members. And that North Huron would deposit the said monies into the Wingham Columbus Center reserves. That North Huron would pay the outstanding invoice for $74,145.91. And that North Huron would amend the pledge payment agreement between the Knights of Columbus Council and the Township of North Huron for the equal amount of $45.91.
Do I have a seconder? I have Councillor Wright. Now, would this be required to be? Okay, all those in favor? Carried. So I can carry on if you wish. That's okay. Closed session and reporting out. The Council of the Township of North Huron hereby proceeds at 7:09 to an in-camera session closed to the public under section 239, section C, or section 2, subsection C and F of the Municipal Act to discuss the following. The proposal for pending acquisition of disposable land by the municipality, a local board, or potential acquisition of land, and advice that is subject to the solicitor client privilege, including communications necessary for the purpose of solicitor advice. And further, that the clerk administrative office be in attendance for item 1 and 2, director of legislation services and clerk for item 1 and 2, economic development officer for item 1, and the director for recreation and children's services for item 2. And the human resources, health and safety coordinator for item 2 remain in attendance. We'll take a, oh, okay, need a mover? Getting ahead of myself. I've Councilor Van Huysum, seconder. Councilor Whitfield, all in favor? Take a short 5-minute break.